Hey everyone, I am your astrologer Wonder Girl, taking you to new heights. This is your astrology horoscope for the full moon in Aries, which happens on Thursday, October 1st, 2020 at 5:05 p.m. Eastern Time or 2:05 p.m. Pacific Time, depending on which part of the country you're in and which time zone you are located in. Okay, what I think this full moon is really all about is about us ending an old identity, an old way of being in life, and an old way of doing things. I think we've been trying to get there for a long time. I think we've been trying to end an old way of being and doing for a while. But this full moon in Aries is going to give us more of the boost to make more, finally, of that happen in more ways than it is that we need. Could it be a little bit uncomfortable at first to continue letting go of an old person we used to be? Yes. But even though it could be uncomfortable at this full moon to let that go, there could also be a lot of healing that can come as a result as we move on. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. If you want to hear more about that, please stay tuned. Before I get going though, I did just want to let you all know that I do offer more videos than just these for the new moon and the full moon, that you see on YouTube. I offer videos, monthly sun sign horoscopes, as well as weekly videos, a monthly general horoscope, and videos for every few days when the moon changes signs, so that you can get more knowledge of what's happening and be more informed. If you would like to get those videos, please check those out on my website, wondergirlastrology.com. You can either purchase some of those videos separately, or you can sign up for my membership and see them more regularly. It's up to you, but I just wanted to let you know that they're there in case you are curious. Now, let's go ahead and hop into this full moon and to what it's all about. Okay, before I tell you what it's all about, though, I do like to place it on the chart so that you can see how I come up with these things and follow along. So that's what I'm going to do now. Full moon, where is it? Well, a full moon has to do with the moon. So I'm going to look at the moon first. We've got the moon right here in Aries. How do I know that it's a full moon? Because it's the moon in Aries, exactly opposite the sun over here, which is in Libra. And the moon opposite the sun is what makes a full moon, okay? What are full moons all about in a general sense? Well, full moons, in my opinion, are all about us completing things, taking things as far as they will go, and then ending them so that we can focus on something else that's important to us later on. And usually completions and endings come hand in hand, because how can you end something that you haven't completed? So you have to complete something first, take it as far as it will go, and then end it so that we can move on. What at this full moon in Aries are we completing, or are we ending? Well, that is what the sign that the moon is in. The moon is in Aries. What is Aries about? Well, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Because of that, it has a lot to do with our identity and who we are as a whole. Okay, Aries is also a Mars ruled sign. So not only does Aries have to do with who we are as a whole, it also has to do as well about how we do things, Mars, how we act in order to move forward. With this being a full moon, we are completing an identity of some sort, I like to think, an old identity, an old way of being in life. We're also completing not only an old identity, an old way of being in life, we're also completing an old way of doing things as well. Why are we completing that? So that we can end it. So that we can end the old identity, end the old way of being and doing things, and move on doing things in a different way. Doing things in a different way that it is that we need from here on out, and being a different person, being a totally different person, in my opinion, from what we have been a few months ago, a few years ago, and even for many decades prior to that. Okay. That to me is emphasized, us ending an old identity and an old way of being and doing things so that we can do something different, because the ruler of this full moon is Mars, okay? Because the moon is in Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars. Because the ruler of this full moon, Mars, is retrograde. We're having to reevaluate who we are and how we do things. Square Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn, all about change, doing something different, figuring that out. So to me, this is a super big theme that's going on at this time and at this full moon in Aries. We are completing an old way of being and an old way of doing things so that we can let that go and formulate a different way of being, a different way of doing things, and move forward on that with the Saturn, Mars square Saturn, more consistently, more long term, especially now that Saturn's direct, in a more committed way over time. All right, now before I go any further, though, I want to go back a little bit, go back before I go forward in order to talk about how we got here to this point and why it's necessary, okay, and to give you the context. And in order to do that, I now am going to go back, of course, to our good friends Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter in Capricorn to explain some of what that's about, okay? What is that about? Well, Saturn and Pluto especially has been about us trying to change Pluto, the direction of our lives, Saturn, or even the structure of our lives, Saturn, to be something else that it has not been before, which was a process that we started, I believe, in April of 2019, but which has still been going on and may have intensified in January of 2020. Okay, why have we been changing the structure of our lives or the direction that our lives is going in to be something else? We're changing that, especially since April of 2019, because what our lives used to be for many decades prior to 2019, because it takes Saturn and Pluto 3 decades in order to come together and make this conjunction. Okay, we're trying to change the structure of our lives because what our lives used to be for many decades prior to this point, we either did not like it, it was bad, it just didn't do us any favors, or because the person we were used to be, we have just simply outgrown of, and we want to move forward to have other experiences from. So we have been changing the structure of our lives for that reason. Was it easy? This is not an easy alignment, okay? Saturn Pluto is not an easy alignment, especially when we have to change things that have persisted for a very, very, very long time. So it wasn't an easy thing, but it's what we have been trying to do. End old chapters in life that persisted for decades so that we can overcome those and move into different chapters in life. And I like to believe that we have done that. I like to believe that, especially a few months ago at the new moon solar eclipse in Cancer, what was that, the end of June of this year, 2020, which is right about here, we were able to do that. We were able to, around June of 2020, overcome these old chapters and the transitions out of these old chapters so that we can move forward into different experiences of life that are going to set us up for the future without all this other stuff from the past that was bringing us down. Okay. But even though I do believe that in June of 2020 that we did that, even though I believe that in June of 2020 we were able to make these changes and overcome this old stuff so that we can step into a different life, I do believe that there were still some roadblocks that have persisted in between June of 2020, which is a few months ago, and now. A few roadblocks that have existed between then and now, preventing us from more fully making this different chapter in life what we wanted it to be, and from more fully feeling like it is here in the ways that it is, that it really was here. Okay, what do I think has stopped us from more fully stepping into this different chapter in life, which we've been working for so long and which is now finally here? I think it was a lot of subconscious attachment to an old identity, an old life, an old way of being that is gone. But there's this subconscious attachment to the ghost of what our life used to be, to the ghost of who we used to be, the shell of who we used to be. And this full moon in Aries, especially after the new moon, which was in Virgo 2 weeks ago, this full moon in Aries is about us letting go of the ghost of the person we used to be, and letting go of the old identity because it's no longer here anyways. And because holding on to the old person that we used to be, even in the smallest ways possible, is going to prevent us from moving forward, is going to prevent us from moving forward in this different chapter of life that's already here, and really has already prevented us from moving forward into this different chapter of life since June of this year until now. So this full moon in Aries is saying, look, it's time to really, really, really let go of this old chapter in life that's persisted for decades. It's really, really time to let it go, who you were in that old place and how you did things in that old place, so that you can move on, because the old chapter is no longer around, even if you subconsciously want to think it is. Because the old chapter is no longer around, because a new chapter is here, and because bringing the old you into the new chapter is going to cause the same problems that you used to have. And doing the old things that you used to do in the same, it's going to cause problems, okay? And the full moon Aries saying, none of that. None of that. Quit it. Quit this old identity, quit this old way of doing things, and quit the attachment, the weird emotional attachment to the old way of doing things too, because that's also not helping you. And it's not the way things really are. Things are really different. You know, things aren't what they used to be. So stop thinking that they're what they were, because they're not, they're different. Okay. And the full moon in Aries is really trying, I think, to like hammer that home, especially with Mars being square Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn is really trying to hammer that home. Quit being the person you used to be, because you're not that person. Even if somewhere you maybe think you are, you're not that person anymore. And if you continue to be it, it is not going to work. It's not going to work. And it's going to create more problems. Okay. Now, is this an easy thing to do? Is this an easy thing to do? I want to say no. I want to say no. It's not easy to let go of the old identity, to let go of the old way of being, and to let go of these subconscious feelings that tell us that we can't be different, that tell us that we can't be different, that we have to be the same, that everything is the same. I want to say no. The reason why I want to say it's not easy to let go of that old stuff is not only because the old identity has persisted for decades, okay? This is like a pattern and a habit that's been ingrained in us for decades. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, okay? So not only is it hard because these things have been around for a while, okay? But I think it's also been hard because we've been trying to do this for quite some time and it hasn't quite happened to let go of the old stuff. And I also think it's going to be hard too because this full moon is conjunct Chiron within 2 degrees of Chiron. Well, the ruler Mars squares Saturn and Pluto. So is this going to be an easy thing? I don't think so. I think it's going to trigger us in some ways. It's going to trigger us as we let go of these old ghosts and as we kiss our old life goodbye and as we really separate from it. It's going to trigger us to go deep to figure out what the subconscious problems are that are keeping us in this old stuff so that we can get to the bottom of it. It's going to trigger us to let go of those old things. Not only is it going to trigger us as we let go of these old things that maybe we don't want to let go of, that we have the wrong mindsets about, but it's also going to trigger us too, because what is the different way of being? What is the new life? Who is the new, who is that? Who is that? What is the new stuff we're creating? We don't know. We don't know what the new stuff is we're creating. The new life is barely even started. The new 35, the new decades of our life from here on out has barely even started. So not only is this full moon frustrating, I don't want to let go of these old things that are not serving me, that I really need to let go of, that aren't working, because I'm weirdly attached to them. It's also going to bring up a lot of triggers of, but even if I do let go of these things I'm weirdly attached to, what the hell is next? What the heck is next? I don't know. It's an abyss. It's unknown. Sure, different. I get it. Sure, okay, it's different. But what is different? What flavor of different? What kind of different? You know, that could be a little bit hard. It's easier to let go of something when you have something else waiting behind it. It's easy to let go of something. You know, it's like when you break up with someone, it's easy to let go of the old boyfriend when you got a new boyfriend right there. But in this case, we don't have a new boyfriend waiting for us, or if we or that new boyfriend is a very different type of person or girlfriend than what we used to go for. So there's this sense of like, if I leave this old life behind, then what's next? I don't know. I don't have anything lined up. And the thing I do have lined up is like weird and it's different. And is it me? Is it not? I don't know. So there's a lot of that feeling too that's starting to come that could be a little bit hard. And we're going to have to learn how to feel that, how to feel the triggers from the past, the frustrations of that and the uncertainties of the future, and to work through it so that we can come out on the other side. Okay. Which is hard, but is possible, because not only does Chiron bring hurting, frustration, bad feelings, Chiron can also bring healing. Chiron can also bring healing as well. So on the other side of all this frustration, I gotta let this go, I don't know what's next, uncertain, all of this stuff, there is healing to be had, but the healing can only come by releasing the old and embracing the unknown, releasing the old and embracing something different, that even if you don't know what it is. And embracing it too, Chiron. You know, Chiron has a lot to do with vulnerability, authenticity, and transparency. So this is not only us like letting the old go and embracing whatever else is out there that we don't know, but it's also about us learning to become more vulnerable in the process, learning to say, look, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I don't know what my life's going to be. And to be okay with that, to be okay with the fact that you don't know, and with showing other people your vulnerabilities as you move forward trying to figure these things out. Okay, so that's an important point that I want to say. Maybe I'll just repeat that. This full moon is not only about us learning to more overcome the old identity and to more permanently let the old identity and way of being go that we've been struggling to let go of and holding on to for so long that needs to leave. Okay, and it's not only about us embracing an unknown future in a different way of being that we don't know what it is, but it's also about us learning to become more transparent as we move forward and more vulnerable and more authentic. It's about us learning to show other people that vulnerability is not weakness, that vulnerability is strength in its own way. It's also us learning that I can be vulnerable, that I can not know what the hell I'm doing and still be just fine and still be okay. And that's not the worst thing that could happen. It's about us also learning that vulnerability is okay. I don't have to have all the answers. I can move forward into the unknown and express myself in this more vulnerable, transparent, and authentic way as I move on. Okay. And I think if we can do that, we are going to have some success. Letting the old go, embracing an unknown, whatever that is, and being transparent and vulnerable as we go to it. Okay? I believe that, and working out the emotions in order to overcome those insecurities, in order to get the healing, if we can do that, it's going to work. Because of the other alignments going on. What are those? Well, that is going to be Pluto stationing to go direct at the time of this full moon, right before Saturn recently went direct. Okay, Saturn recently went direct. Pluto's about to go direct soon. And this to me is a good thing. Why are these good things? Because Saturn and Pluto have been retrograde for almost all of this year. And they've been retrograde in like a really uncomfortable spot, like next to each other, which is not nice. Okay. And not only are both of these planets about to come out of this conjunction to each other and finally go forward after being retrograde most of this year, but Saturn is on its way out of Capricorn, about to change signs around December. So I think this is a good thing, giving us more solidity. And I don't know if I want to say the word solidity because of something else that's going on, but it's giving us more of something to aim. I don't know if I want to say something to aim for, because I still think so many things are unknown, but it's giving us a little bit more of that oomph to go in this different way, in life with this different identity, even if we don't know what it is yet. It's giving us a little bit more oomph to help everything gel, to help finally this old way of doing things more so release, and the new way come together over time. It's helping it to kind of coalesce in the way that it needs for us to move forward over time, getting us a good result. Okay? It is. Is this going to happen immediately? Is the formulation of the new identity and of the new way of being going to come immediately after this full moon in Aries? No, it's not. Why? Because this is a full moon about endings and not beginnings. The new way of being in the new identity really isn't going to come until the new moon in Aries 6 months from now. Okay, so even though we're releasing the old, the new isn't really going to come until later. Not only is the new not going to really come until later, even if we are letting more stuff go because of the new moon, we have to wait for that, but also because Saturn is in Capricorn. It's a slow thing. Capricorn is a slow sign. Saturn's a slow planet in its home sign. So I don't want to give you the impression of, sure, release the old identity, release the old way of being, and then finally new is right around the corner. It's not. This is release the old way of being, release the old identity, and be okay with not knowing for a bit. Be okay with not knowing where things are going to happen for a bit until about 6 months or so from now. Be okay with not knowing. But the you being okay with the not knowing is weirdly going to help everything come together. You being okay with not knowing is weirdly, with Saturn and Pluto going direct in Capricorn, going to help things come together. You're not going to know how things are going to come together until later, especially not with Neptune about to square the nodal axis. Okay, you're not really going to know how things are going to come together until a little bit later. There's still some more confusion. There's still some more things to work through, but being open to whatever happens is going to weirdly give you more of that support in order to move forward. Okay. It's going to help us to transition out of these old times. This full moon is like the boat out of troubled waters into clear, calm seas, calmer. I don't know if I want to quite say that. Seeing next year's astrology, Jupiter and Saturn square Uranus, next year's not going to be so calm either. So I don't want to say this is the boat out of troubled waters and into calmer seas, but I do want to say that this is the boat out of one ocean into another ocean, or one lake into another lake, or something like that. This is the boat out of that so that we can go somewhere else with a different set of experiences from here on out. Okay. Could it feel a little bit destabilizing? Sure. A little destabilizing at the full moon in Aries and for months to come until the next new moon in Aries. Could it feel a little bit destabilizing? Sure. Because the sun on this full moon is in a quincunx with Uranus and Taurus. So we could take a little bit of a blow here to the confidence, to the security, to our sense of self, while this stuff works itself out. Why are we taking a little bit of a blow to our confidence? Because we know that we're leaving one place, but we don't know where we're going. And we don't know where everything's going to end up, and we don't know who we're becoming. So of course we're going to feel a little bit like a fish out of water. I don't know. Who am I? This is insecure. I feel uncomfortable. I don't feel stable. Of course we're going to feel some sense of instability as we kind of like get our bearings in this different place. But that doesn't mean we're doing something wrong. That doesn't mean to not do it, Sometimes we need to experience uncomfortable emotions to learn things, and to grow. And I feel like, and not only do we need to experience things to learn and to grow, uncomfortable things, but sometimes uncomfortable things just happen as a part of good things that we're trying to get to. So just because we're feeling uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that we're doing something wrong. It just means that we're going to have to learn how to be okay as we transition out of these old things into this different identity. We're going to have to learn how to get our bearings in a place of shifting sands until we get to a different place, which is going to take longer to fully arrive. And when I say longer to get to a more stable place, I mean years. I wish I could tell you next year we're going to get to a more stable place next year, but Saturn, Jupiter square Uranus, it's not a stable alignment. Do I think we're going to have more of an idea of who our new life is, what our new life is next new moon in Aries 6 months from now? Yeah. I do, but I think that before we feel like we're in a stable place, knowing for sure it's going to be 2 or 3 years. So we're going to have to get real comfortable here at real uncomfortable being uncomfortable. We're going to have to get real comfortable being uncomfortable, and we're going to have to get real comfortable dealing with uncertainty, and we're going to have to learn to not let the uncertainty shake us, to not let the insecurity tear us down, because there's no need for that. We're fine. if we just keep moving forward. Okay. Is there anything else that I want to say? Anything else that I want to mention? I was like, there are some alignments I kind of didn't really talk about as much, like Venus trine Mars, but I think I kind of interpreted that in the way that I normally would by talking about all these other things, you know. Venus trine, we are coming up with a new way of being. We are coming up with it. So I don't want this to be discouraging. We are coming up with a new way of moving forward. It's just gonna take us longer until we fully feel like it's here, and the releasing of the past has to come first so that we're not subconsciously stuck there. Okay, maybe the last thing that I'll talk about is Mercury around this full moon is making an opposition over here to Uranus and Taurus. So we could get some unexpected news, Mercury, or unexpected insights, or have some unexpected conversations at this time. But I do believe that these unexpected news or insights are going to be to help alert us to what we're stuck in the past that isn't working, and is not only going to help to alert us about what isn't working from the past, but to kind of shake things up so that we can move forward. Okay. But either way, like, it all just comes back to that. I don't want to like keep repeating myself over and over again, but I really do just feel like everything at this full moon is going to come back to the fact that we really, really, really need to let go of an old chapter of our life that is really gone, but that we're still weirdly attached to. Like, we really, really, really need to let go of that. And we really need to be okay with not knowing what's next and being more vulnerable and transparent as we move forward. Because it's not going to happen any faster, you know, by us trying to force things. And because it's eventually going to come. Okay. It's eventually going to come, maybe not all at once, but the new moon in Aries 6 months from now, and especially a few years after, as Saturn and Jupiter move into Aries years down the line. Okay. And you can have, and it's could be a little bit frustrating to let go of the old stuff, step into the unknown, still some confusion, things we don't know, some unexpected conversations and thoughts that could be hard, alerting us to what we're stuck in, but ultimately meant to help us move on. And that's it. Maybe now what I'll do is I'll read the inside degree really quickly before I pull a card on what this full moon is. Okay, I'm going to read the inside degree for 10 degrees Aries, even though the full moon is at 9 degrees, just because I like that one better. I'm going to read it on my screen. Someone else wrote it, but I'm going to give you my thoughts as I go along. Okay. 10 degrees Aries says, reading it, bondage and freedom sometimes go hand in hand. The bondage is being true to pattern, predictable, cotton habits and tendencies perpetually left to grow like weeds. So this to me speaks to the old identity, the old person we've been for the past 35 years since Saturn and Pluto last came conjunct in 1983 or something, 85. No, I think it was 83. Okay. What that means is that the old identity we're stuck in is a bondage. It's keeping us stuck in this old way that isn't healthy. That's going to become like a weed if we continue in it, infecting our fresh crops that we're starting to get to. Okay. So that's another way of thinking about what's going on at this full moon. We're stuck in bondage to the old things. The next line says, the freedom is that as you meet yourself starkly in the midst of these old tired patterns and behaviors, you come into touch with a quickening flame of self-recreation, stimulated and forced by being at the mercy of their relentless patterns. So even though there's a part of us at this full moon that is stuck in a slavery to the old sense of self that isn't healthy, that's a weed that's infecting all our new crops, there is a part of us that is experiencing freedom at the same time and knowing we can break those habits, break those patterns, break those cycles, and recreate ourselves and our image anew to be something different. It says this impulse to make yourself over is strong, courageous, ready and willing, that Mars warrior feeling, but the old stuff dies hard. You are therefore engaged in a pitched battle of a protracted kind between retrogressive past and progressive future ideals, impulses, and desires. Both sides are so impassioned and sharply intent that this becomes a knockdown, drag out battle of wills. Okay, I think I've made that clear. This full moon in Aries, we're fighting against the old impulse to do the old things versus the new impulse to do the new and different things that we need from here on out. They're fighting because we're stuck in the past and we don't know what the future is. But it says this, the visionary, it says eventually the future prevails over the past. So eventually we're going to have to move on in a different way, but not before scars and multiple traumas mark the spot of fighting for your life against an implacable inward enemy who knows it will lose and fights all the harder accordingly. So the new way is going to come. We have no choice. A new life is here. We're going to have to go. But the more we resist the new life, the more wounds we're going to get. And the more hurt we're going to get. Which, yes, is interesting, even from a global perspective. The more we are stubborn to old ways and not flexible and not willing to try new things, especially around the North Nodes in Gemini, the more pain we're going to cause ourselves. Because I do believe in free will, these are... The astrology is, to me, the intent of God. It's the intent of the universe. We don't have to accept it. So, yeah, we don't have to accept it. So, some of us could resist to do things in this new and different way, and then, that's just not go well. But I think that what we need to do now is to nip it in the bud. What we need to do now is nip this old way in the bud more permanently, especially now while Mars is retrograde, Mercury's in pre-retrograde shadow, so that we can make changes and move on in a different way without creating more problems for ourselves from here on out. Now, your card for this full moon is the Page of Cups upright, which I love. This card, to me, this card is all about creativity, dreaming about possibilities and about what's next. Especially because in this deck, it's got a pig flying and a person floating in air. So I feel like this card is saying, for those of you who feel torn between stuck in the past and wanting to break free from the past and create something else, this card says remove yourself from that yes, no, black, white, back and forth, and rise above. Flying, rise above, float above this stuff so that you don't get stuck in it and so that you can see a different perspective and not only rise above it, but dream about what you could be, because the more that you can dream and get inspired and create other things, you're going to be less worried about what you're leaving behind and about what's going on, because you're either going to see other ways of being that you can moving forward, or you're going to feel better. You're going to just feel better about it. Okay. This does something about creativity and art being super helpful at this time so that we can stop getting stuck in the mundane reality and see a bigger picture, see other possibilities, even if we don't know what possibilities we're going to land on, and move more towards those. And this isn't another point that I want to say, to me, this card isn't just create new possibilities for yourself and focus on those, because I don't think we really know exactly for sure what the future possibilities are going to be, even if we're thinking about the future and creating something else. This I want to be clear, is not just about creating other possibilities, but it's about the act of creation. The act of creation is fulfillment in itself. is a fulfilling thing that helps us move forward, because creating something gets us out of the struggles of everyday life and is soothing to the soul in its own way. So don't get caught up. What I'm trying to say is, don't get caught up in where is my life going to go if I were to create something new, but just the sheer joy of creation. You know, like I create a lot of things that I never use. I have like a lot of different versions of like my Wonder Girl logo, and of I have like, you know, a lot of things that I've wanted to put out there for astrology and for otherwise that I don't end up going with. And even though I don't end up doing things with the things that I create, logos or otherwise, to me it wasn't a waste of time. It was still a helpful process, because creating something distracted me and got me thinking in a different way than what I normally would, and eventually taught me something as I got somewhere else. So that's my other point here. Remove yourself from the fray and think about other possibilities that you could create that haven't existed yet, but don't get stuck on the other possibilities once you do think of them and on where exactly they're going to lead. Just enjoy the process of thinking, creating, and considering where things can go. The card at the bottom of the deck is the Eight of Pentacles upright. How do I feel about this? Man, the Eight of Pentacles to me is a lot of like, man, do I want to say this card to me has a lot to do with like mastering something and with hard work? Mastering something. I think this to me is going to be mastering the old stuff and moving past that. You know, sometimes before the different possibilities can come, you have to take the past as far as it can go and really go down the rabbit holes with that. So I don't know. There is this like past and future being torn, and maybe what needs to happen at this full moon in Aries is that you go down the past to really come to terms with all that's happened there and to master that so that you can create something else and be open to the creative process as you move forward. The Eight of Pentacles, like hard at work, hard at work. To let go old things and to move forward. I wish I was more insightful about the Eight of Pentacles, but it's just a weird card to get at this time, because I don't want to say, I mean, I know we did just have a new moon in Virgo, and I typically correlate this card to like Virgo. I don't quite want to say hard work, but I suppose with the Saturn, like there is still this flavor of us having to be diligent as we move forward. So even though I do think we should create and need to create other possibilities and enjoy the process of creation, this card makes me think that it's still going to take more time as we fully let go of the old and bring things together, and that is okay. And that I do the process to enjoy the process as we move forward. So that is your horoscope for the full moon in the sign of Aries. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube, share it with your friends, comment down below, and I'll talk to you on the next one.